Welcome to Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning for Wednesday, June 5th. I'm your host, Tom Orr. The Akron game in 87 days, the game against Michigan in 178 days. We are headed into Ohio State football camp season. That starts today. Gerdeman and I will be among those out at the Woody Hayes Athletic Center covering the camp. Should have Kevin and Mark out there with us as well. Should be a fun day. Get to get a little in-person scouting. We're going to talk about all the stuff we'll get to do at camp, and some of the guys will be at camp and all that stuff. We're going to do that in a minute. But first, we start with some news about Ryan Day. On Tuesday, Day was honored for his work involving mental health. He was out there with Ohio Governor Mike DeWine. So yes, the most powerful man in the state of Ohio, and also the governor there together, and also the second most powerful man in the state of Ohio, Tony Gerdeman, was there. Tony, let us know a little bit about the event and what Ryan Day was honored for.
Yeah, the event was the Faces of Resilience fundraising event to raise funds, but also to honor Ryan and his wife, Nina Day, for a $1 million gift that they gave back in 2022 to help mental health with young people. And the event basically celebrates and supports the planning and development for a comprehensive center for psychiatry and resilience at Ohio State. So you had the head doctor there involved as well. So got to have a little presser with the doctor, with the governor, and with the Days, talking about mental health, the importance of it, how it has impacted the team, how this was something that Nina Day has wanted to do since basically Ryan got the head coaching job. And basically, I don't know, it was the day after or so. Once all of that's done, she's like, okay, well, what are we going to do with this platform? And this is something that they've obviously been close to for years and years. And Nina talked about her own struggles with anxiety and things like that. So something that is obviously near and dear to their hearts, and they're helping to do something about it.
Yeah, and I'm guessing most people who are listening to this would know this, but the Days started the On Our Sleeves Foundation. That is a foundation specifically working on mental health involving children. So you can find much more information on that if you want to look that up. But they do a lot of work with the Nationwide Children's Hospital and organizations like that. So yeah, there's Ohio State coaches generally will have an issue, something that they want to really be a champion of, use that platform for good. And that is, Days have certainly done some great work in the area of mental health, and especially mental health and children. So they should be and were on Tuesday congratulated for that. After that, they met with some of the folks, including Tony, to talk about some, arguably less important stuff like college football. And he was asked, you got a chance to talk to him a little bit about, right now, this is a time when it feels like everyone's roster is just in permanent flux, but the transfer portal now is closed, and it sounds like the Ohio State roster, as it is set right now, is very likely, barring something really, really surprising, probably going to be the Ohio State roster heading into the fall.
Yep, that's what Ryan said. They're done basically, and so now I think they're 3 or 4 under the 85 limit. So they'll elevate some walk-ons, give them some scholarships, but or maybe just hold them off. You know what? Hold it out like a carrot and see how they like that. But yeah, not expecting any more players to come in. Certainly not out there looking, and I don't even know who else is out there left that would be of the caliber that Ohio State would be interested in. So they've got that locked in. They've got summer workouts going on. They just elected their leadership council this past weekend, I believe. So they're moving headfirst into the summer workouts and the preparation for fall camp, which is, I don't know, maybe like exactly 2 months from today, maybe.
Yeah, that's usually first week of August. Usually like a Tuesday, right? Is the first day there. So yeah, that's coming fast and furious. Something else you got a chance to ask him about was, you mentioned walk-ons there. You mentioned the 85 scholarship player limit there. There is a proposal out there. There's an idea sort of floating around that, hey, maybe you need to cut back on the number of players on a roster. Maybe the walk-on thing needs to kind of end and it just needs to be 85. You get a chance to ask Ryan Day about that. What were his thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think he's echoing every single college football coach out there, saying that they don't want this rule. They and I asked Ryan Day about it, and he's like, you have, there are a lot of things to consider now with revenue sharing. And so that's why this has become an issue, because the fewer players you have, the fewer the the less there is to share, basically, the more you get to keep, if you will. And it's expensive to have more and more players if you have to share the revenue with them, or so the story is told. But, Day understands the complications, the complexities, but also does not want to lose the walk-ons. And so he's hopeful that whatever happens, there will be a way to keep those walk-ons. And I know people will say, well, the NFL has a 53-man roster, but they can go out on the street and get anybody any single week, or go to grab another team's player on the practice squad and bring them in whenever they want. So they have 53 on a roster, but they really have, if you count every single player on all of the practice squads, you can, that's kind of their player as well if they need them. So it's not just 53 players, and having just 85 players who are not professionals, who are just, 18 to 22 year olds, you're asking them a lot. And so the coaches, I have not heard any coach that is in favor of this, and Ryan Day certainly is not in favor of the 85. And it may not, maybe it's 95, whatever, but you're talking about programs like Ohio State that have well over 100 players and, 25 to 35 walk-ons. There's a proud history at pretty much every program involving their walk-ons elevating to scholarship players, or you don't have enough scholar, or you're at 85, so the walk-ons don't get a scholarship. They're paying their way to play. And some great memories, some great experiences, some great stories come from all of that. And so definitely he does not want to give that up.
Yeah, I would imagine that would be a tough sell with pretty much any football coach, especially with the season potentially getting longer. You're probably going to need more people, not fewer. So that seems like that's probably not going to be an idea that goes over all that well with college football coaches. But as we have seen in the past, they do not always get the final vote on that type of thing. So we'll see where that ends up heading. I can tell you where we're going to be heading, and that is to the Woody Hayes Athletic Center on Wednesday morning to cover Ohio State's first summer camp of the year. This is always a really fun chance for us to get out there and spend some time in the sunshine and or thunderstorms, as the forecast is calling for on Wednesday afternoon. But it's a chance to see a bunch of players who are potentially trying to earn an offer from Ohio State, guys who maybe are younger guys you're getting a first look in person at some of these guys. I remember covering a safety by the name of Caleb Downs a couple of years ago at camp, getting some great pictures of him working with the coaching staff. Whatever happened to that guy? But lots of other guys, Brandon Innes, we saw at one of these camps, Carnell Tate, we've seen at these camps. I mean, all these guys, Tavian St. Clair, we've seen at these camps over the years. So this is a really good opportunity to see, the potential stars of the future up close, working with the Ohio State coaching staff. And it's also it's not an official recruiting event, but sometimes you guys get guys who earn an offer at these camps. Sometimes you get guys who, cement relationships with coaches and end up committing at, following a couple days of these camps. So, this is a potentially a very impactful day in the future for some of these players and for the program as well. I have always found, though, Tony, that this is something where there are some positions that are better to evaluate in these camps than others. Like, you can watch the running backs, and the running backs are generally just kind of working through drills. And it's not, you don't necessarily get a sense for the type of vision they need and that kind of thing. You can get a sense for how fast guys are, how shifty, but not necessarily the vision for a running back. But there are certainly positions where you can look at guys, especially during what they call the winner-loser position at the end, the winner-loser drill, where guys are going one-on-one, where you get a chance to really get the measure of how these guys stack up.
Yeah, it's interesting to watch them over a couple of years, as we've gotten to see with Tavian St. Clair, where you see the growth from year to year. But anytime you can watch some one-on-ones, you take it with a grain of salt, but still, it's fun to watch. And you like you said, you can see when somebody just dominates and continues to dominate, then, you take note of that. And all of these different evaluations that go on, whether it's, the linebackers and you got James Laurinaitis out there yelling, or wherever it's happening, the amount of eyes, the amount of pressure, this is all, you've got so much moving on around you, and everybody's vying for like a scholarship. And it doesn't happen for many. It happened, and most of the guys there are going to walk away and without a scholarship. And the guy that I keep thinking about is Antoine Winfield Jr. A few years back. He was part of the class of 2016. So this probably would have been 2014 on the indoor field at the Woody. I'm standing behind Antoine Winfield Sr. watching his son work out. vying for a scholarship offer from Ohio State. He did not get that scholarship offer, Tom. And before you look to see who Ohio State signed in that 2016 out of the secondary, I'm going to give you some names that Ohio State signed instead of offering Antoine Winfield Jr., and you tell me if they did the right thing. Now, Jordan Fuller, I'll give you that one. Then you've got, Wayne Davis, out of Norfolk, Virginia. Rajay Burns, corner out of Trinity in Louisville, Kentucky. Jocelyn Wint, and Kareem Felder. Kareem Felder eventually did not make it into school. So those are the guys that they felt were more equipped to play at Ohio State than the son of one of the greatest to ever do it. Am I bitter? Am I disappointed in the decisions of these grown evaluating men? No.
Yeah, I'm just glad this is not something that you're still angry about. Literally 10 years later, that's wonderful. I'm so glad to hear it. There are good stories as well. Tony doesn't have to be just bitter and angry about everything. You know, I think back to like Darren Lee, for example, who kept coming and kept coming and kept coming and kept coming, and Luke Fickell kept pounding the table and pounding the table and pounding the table for him, and he ended up being a real impact player on that 2014 national championship team. And you see guys, typically you can sort of almost see it coming when you're at camp, where you'll see a guy and, you know, you can tell usually from across the field who are the potential prospects versus who are the guys who are just there to camp and get the experience. And so you can sort of tell immediately, and then you watch a guy maybe dominate some of the drills. And then generally, if Ryan Day comes over to watch that guy, you know, the position coach has text Ryan Day, hey, come over and watch so-and-so. That's an indication, okay, they're thinking about it. And then if the player goes back into the coach's offices a lot of times during the course of camp, you can sort of see the coaching staff walking guys back into the building. It's like, I bet I know what's happening now. And those are the guys who tend to, if you see that, it's a good indication, you know, hey, you might be looking at someone who's going to get an offer. And generally you'll see that tweeted out by the player later on in the day. We will sometimes get a chance to talk to those guys at the end of the camp, at the end of the day as well. So we get a chance to get to know some of these guys a little bit and get some more information on them. So really a big potential day in the careers of a lot of these different guys. There are a bunch of guys coming in this week, Tony. I'll just run through a couple quick that just are players of, you know, maybe some note, people to keep an eye on. 2025 offensive lineman Nolan Davenport out of Massillon. He has offers from Penn State and Wisconsin and Missouri and others. Could potentially be an Ohio State offer. We'll see. He will get a chance to work out with Justin Fry. 2026 tackle Adam Guthrie out of Miami Trace. He's got offers from Penn State and Tennessee and Oregon, Miami, among others. John Stover, he's another top 2026 lineman. He's out of Texas. Probably more of an inside guy. Guthrie maybe more of a tackle. Penn State and Oregon offers there. 2026 cornerback Victor Singleton out of Toledo Central Catholic. He's a top 50 player in the country, according to 247. So those are some of the names. The name that's going to get the most attention this week, and justifiably so, though, Tony, is Jakeem Stewart, number one player in 2026. Potentially could reclassify to 2025. He's someone that Mark and Kevin met with on Southern Swing. He's going to be there Thursday. And you can usually, you know, first of all, you can usually tell the guys who are like, this is potentially the number one player in the class. Those guys are not very hard to pick out. I am not the single most talented scout out there. I can usually pick those guys out. That's one where, you know, this is potentially a very big visit to get someone who is a Louisiana native up to Columbus on something that's an unofficial visit, get a chance to see the facilities, meet the coaches, all that kind of stuff. This is potentially a really big deal for Ohio State to have him on campus this week.
Yeah, and a lot of these guys, they'll come up, but they're not going to work out, you know, so regardless, Ohio State's going to take the visit, whether you want to work out or not, just to be able to continue to build that relationship. And if somebody from Louisiana wants to come up on their own dime, somebody, you know, a 5-star defensive lineman from the South, yes, come on up. Do you have MapQuest? Do you know how to get here? And this is one that you take it and you know, Larry Johnson, I'm sure, is going to be spending time with them. It is always interesting also during these camps to watch the position coaches. You don't have to watch long to figure out who are the targets because they'll pull them aside. They'll run them through again. They'll talk to them while other drills are going on. And then you've got the assistant running the drills. So they're coaching up. They're building relationships. And I remember watching Devin Sanchez last year with Tim Walton. They were pretty much shoulder to shoulder for a lot of one of those afternoons, just watching drills, going through them, talking it out. And we've seen that with Larry Johnson for years, doing that with all kinds of defensive linemen coming in. And I expect we'll see that again this week.
Yeah, as you're talking, I'm just thinking through all these current Ohio State football players that we saw coming in at camp. I remember Hero Canoe coming in with the group from Europe and watching him. And boy, Larry Johnson spent a lot of time with Hero Canoe, and now Hero Canoe on the Ohio State defensive line. So Ty Hamilton a few years ago working at the camp. So yeah, this is one of those things that I think the average fan probably doesn't pay a ton of attention to, but is a sort of low-key, very important month and very important series of events for Ohio State recruiting for not just this current class, but for several classes in the future. There are some 2027 quarterbacks that we're going to be keeping an eye on, which I'm not emotionally ready to talk about the recruiting class of 2027 yet, but we'll get there eventually. But we will be out there on Wednesday covering everything for you at BuckeyeHuddle.com and YouTube.com/BuckeyeHuddle. We'll try and get you some interviews, get you some photos, some video, all that kind of good stuff. Get you some real, genuine Ohio State football content coming to you from the Woody Hayes Athletic Center this week. Again, at BuckeyeHuddle.com and at YouTube.com/BuckeyeHuddle. That'll do it for today. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.